As I mentioned at the top of the program, it's been quite a week for the pro-life movement in America. First, we had the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals kept intact some key provisions of a federal district judge's ruling that protects women and girls by restricting access to these dangerous chemical abortion pills. Well, now, just a little over an hour ago, the U.S. Supreme Court has put all of this on hold. And then there's last night's signing of Florida's Heartbeat Protection Act, just hours after the legislation passed. Of course, as I just mentioned, the governor signed it. So our movement has a lot of momentum, but we've got to stay vigilant. The left, you can be assured, they're going to counterattack. Well, joining me now to discuss this and much more is one of our great pro-life stalwarts on Capitol Hill, Representative Ralph Norman. He serves on the House Budget Committee as well as the House Rules Committee and the Financial Services Committee. He represents the 5th Congressional District of South Carolina. Congressman Norman, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Congressman Heiss, glad to see you, and we miss you in D.C.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to see you. You're looking good. All right, let's start here. Just some of your general reactions. We've had a lot of events happen in the last week or so in the pro-life arena. Your overall thoughts with it all?
You know, Jody, and you saw this during your tenure in Congress. You know, isn't it amazing the people that think killing children is health care? And you can say it with a straight face. I know when we had the Oversight Committee and we asked the question of, is it right to take a child at birth and kill it? And you couldn't get an answer. But what's happened over the last week, really, in Florida is a great thing. You know, Steve King championed the heartbeat bill when he was still here. You know, we have got life, and I say that literally. The unborn has life with things that are moving, with people that are getting behind it and are fighting back. And as you mentioned in the opening monologue, you know, you've got to stay diligent with this. The left is unrelenting. They're loud, but they're just wrong. And to take the life of children through chemicals, I was disappointed in the FDA, which has stonewalled any effort to give any information out on what it does, which is basically starve an unborn child. But it's a move in the right direction with what Florida did, and I hope other states will follow suit.
Well, you probably heard on my opening comments, but just a little over an hour ago, I don't know if you've been able to see much of the details of this, but the Supreme Court has put a temporary stay on the chemical abortion bill ruling there in Texas. They're just allowing a few days. They're going to end the decision by Wednesday at midnight of next week. So it's just a few extra days for people to weigh in. Is this something you think was just kind of inevitable, that the Supreme Court would just say, all right, let's hold back for a couple of days? What are your thoughts on that?
Pretty timid, really. I mean, it's good they're holding up on it, but it's pretty timid response from the Supreme Court. You would hope for a different outcome, but it didn't happen. But it gives you that much. I mean, you know, it is what it is, and you take the time allotted and weigh in on it and voice your opinion. And it's going to take Americans getting involved. But I think they're doing it all over the country on a lot of different issues, not just this. But there is none more defining than the life of a child and upholding life. And I'm glad at least people are getting involved now where they never have in the past.
Well, we're going to have to stay involved on this issue. And like you said, so many other issues that it just seems like a barrage of things that we're dealing with. One other thing that I want to hit on before we shift gears here, but earlier in the week, the Biden administration's task force on reproductive health care access held their third meeting, and Vice President Kamala Harris was there. And I wanted to play this for you. I aired it earlier in the week, but I wanted to play it for you and get your reaction. This is the Vice President here.
I do believe that America is facing a healthcare crisis after the Dobbs decision, and then given what has happened most recently in the court in Texas. This indeed is a healthcare crisis in America, and we have to acknowledge and understand it to be just that.
Protecting life is a healthcare crisis. Can you imagine? I mean, how do you even respond to this and your colleagues there in Capitol Hill?
Well, I respond, Jody. She's dead wrong, as she has been on everything else. The facts of this case do not rely on the Dobbs decision. it turns it back to the states. And in the same case, results were possible prior to this. This is about a chemical abortion with limited medical oversight. Tell me how that's healthy or safe for the consumer, or more importantly, how that is squares with not basically starving a child to death in the womb. So she's dead wrong, as she is on most issues, and I assume she will be laughing about it later on. But it's unfortunate that she's in the position that she is. But she's dead wrong about this, as she is on most of the other issues.
Well, that's well said. All right, Congressman, if we can, let's switch gears. You're on some of the major committees that deal with national debt and where we're going in that regard. When Congress comes back next week, the debt ceiling, the budget debate, obviously, these are going to be key issues once again. And when your service on some of these major committees, what do you expect is going to happen in these next weeks ahead?
Let me give you some encouraging news, Jody. We've been off for 2 weeks, but we have been having conversations with the RSC, the Republican Study Committee, with the Freedom Caucus, which, as you know, I'm a part of, as you were. And I guess Chip Roy summed it up. It's game time. It's time to severely get this country, the spending cut. The cancer that's in this country is spending. And with the debt crisis, it began in January. In mid-June, Janet Yellen could say at any time that we're here. We got to have the debt ceiling increase. So we're simply not going to let it get to that part. We are going to, over the next 2 weeks, we're going to get active on paper, putting what the cuts look like, what our solution is to the debt crisis, which are one-to-one cuts. And if we get all the cuts, the 500 amendments that the Freedom Caucus was a part of, and others submitted, which were over $1 trillion, it'll start the spending crisis. It'll cut it, which is we've got to do. Economic security is national security. So that's the good news. Now, is getting 218 votes easy? No. But we're going to work to that end, and I think we will. Look at all the crises we face. If we can't do this for the American people, cut the woke spending, cut the 85,000 IRS agent, cut the $400 to $500 million for a new FBI building, things like that should be easy. I don't know why we're up there. So it'll be an interesting 2 weeks. And it's my thought and others, if we don't get it done in the next 2 weeks, we don't go away for a week. We stay in session until we come up with it.
Well, good for you. You know, it's amazing to me how the administration now is bragging, literally, that inflation's around 5%, which is still a triple what it was when Biden came into office. Only got about 30 seconds or less, actually. But Congressman Norman, you think Republicans in the House are going to be able to pass a relatively strong debt limit bill?
We're going to have to. The 20 of us have not gone anywhere. Leadership is going to have to get behind it, Jody, because a Band-Aid is not going to cure the cancer that we have in this country. So we're at the end of the runway. I think we will. And I think we will ultimately, if along with leadership, hopefully leading on this, will provide some sanity to what's been insanity for as long as I've been there.
Congressman Ralph Norman, thank you for all your leadership, and thanks for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Jody.